Na 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 moonlight, na 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 in the sky, na 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 you say, na 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 popcorn, na 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 moonlight, na 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 in the sky, na 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 you say, na 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 popcorn.
Hey, what's up, guys? Cristian Rogers here. So right now we're going to be reviewing Bull Durham. It's a classic movie starring Kevin Costner, Tim Robbins, and Susan Sarandon. Here to help us out with this review is Juju. How are you doing, Juju?
Doing great, C-Money. Are you ready to convert to the Church of Baseball just yet?
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's such an inspirational movie, too. I enjoyed it.
I feel like in honor of this episode, I'm going to call you Meat the rest of the podcast. You good with that, Meat?
No, I'm going to be like Tim Robbins and get really, really annoyed and mad that you're calling me Meat.
Well, we'll get you to convert. There's 108 stitches on a rosary. There's 108 stitches on a baseball. Time to convert, man.
All right, guys, so I want to start off by reading a small little synopsis that I wrote. Bull Durham is about a young minor league baseball team that is struggling to win a game. So Tim Robbins, he goes by Nuke. He's the pitcher, and he's really having trouble with his pitch game. Either he throws too fast, or when he throws, he misses. He hits the mascot. He always hits people, stuff like that. The team decides to hire Kevin Costner, his name is Crash, to help Nuke become a great pitcher. Kevin Costner is more of like the inspirational mentor to Nuke, but Nuke is obviously the dumb young kid. He doesn't know what he's doing yet. He thinks that he knows everything, but he doesn't. Crash is the one that has the most experience. He's always stayed in the minor leagues, but he was in the major league for a bit. And also this movie stars Susan Sarandon, which let me just say, she's very, very beautiful lady. So Susan Sarandon is a promiscuous, poetry-loving hottie. That's what I wrote for her.
I feel like you're writing in a penthouse form with that synopsis there.
And her belief is that she wants to sleep with one baseball player a season, and she thinks just by doing that it'll bring luck to the team.
In many ways, Susan Sarandon in this role was the OG Slumpbuster. She never dated a player that batted less than 250 on record.
Yo, I know it's funny though. She kind of reminded me of the chick in Blue Mountain State that all the players went to sleep with.
Well, you can tell where they got the concept stolen from. Did it shock you to actually see Tim Robbins? Obviously, this is when he was a lot younger. Was it interesting to see him in more like a comedy role?
Yeah, because he always plays the dramatic role.
Yeah.
Like my first ever movie watching him in was a Shawshank Redemption. So seeing him in a comedic role was like, what?
Fun fact, too, for this movie, the almost 30-year relationship between Tim Robbins and Susan Sarandon started here in 1988 when this movie was filmed. A movie that kind of has a lot of parallels with it. We'll obviously talk about it in the next episode, but Major League, similar movies. So Major League came out in 1989. Nuke, Ebby Calvin Laloosh may have been the original Wild Thing. Fireball pitcher, young, bit of a knucklehead. I think it worked to his advantage, though, hitting the mascot. That seemed to play really well into his pitching repertoire.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it did. That part was hilarious, too. He just knocked them out.
There was even a little bit of voodoo still in this movie, too. So we had that. Mm-hmm. Veteran Crash Davis, old school catcher. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of similarities. Two very different movies. This movie is kind of controversial in the baseball community in terms of, yes, of course, it's a baseball movie, but is it more like a romantic comedy? It kind of walks that fine line a little.
Yeah, see, I could definitely see that because I feel like a majority of the movie, they didn't really show him play baseball that much. Like, if you look at those scenes, it was maybe like 4 minutes, and the rest was Susan Sarandon trying to sleep with Nuke, but then she knew that she was in love with Crash the whole time. Definitely see that argument.
Well, Susan Sarandon had the opening monologue, which is a good little 3-minute opine to the romanticism of baseball. Mm-hmm. Obviously, you mentioned her beliefs in terms of how she goes about her dating life, a whole conversation about famous baseball personalities. You could definitely tell that the love of baseball was still there in the 1980s, and this is one of the movies that's always constantly looked back on and reflected on in terms of the baseball film community. Kevin Costner obviously is a veteran in this role when it comes to baseball films. This is officially his 4th baseball movie on his IMDb. He also has For Love of the Game, Field of Dreams, a smaller, lesser-known role as well. He, in 2016, was on record saying he might even do a fifth baseball movie about the Chicago Cubs. Kevin Costner definitely knows his way around a baseball role. Him and James Earl Jones definitely had that parallel together. When I look at Crash Davis, the character, he'd probably definitely hate the modern baseball game. As you can tell, he mentioned strikeouts are a little fascist, spread the wealth a little bit. Well, baseball is currently all strikeouts are home runs, very little in between. But Crash Davis is kind of a real-life character that a lot of people don't really think of. You live in El Paso, you have a AAA baseball team in your backyard. Here in Austin, we have one. In Albuquerque, obviously, they have the Isotopes and everything like that. So we're used to the AAA teams, but the thing about baseball is there's a whole levels of minor league system underneath that. Smaller towns, crowds of less than a few thousand every week. You have guys that live their entire lives on minor league baseball buses. And Bull Durham is one of the few movies that actually gives you a look into that, or one of the few movies that actually does it really well, talks about minor league baseball. And Crash Davises legitimately exist, full-time career minor league baseball players who will never make it to the pros.
And then when they make it, they only make it for maybe a month, and after that they get dropped.
Yeah, exactly. There's tons of players who their entire prime of their career is gone before they know it. And in the case of Crash Davis, they signed his players specifically to train up a younger guy, which between the catcher-pitcher relationship, it definitely is one of the true like fraternal brotherhoods like in sports between those two guys, because they need to be on the same page. It shows like when it comes to calling a game, obviously Crash, that's a sensitive subject for him, because if you cross him, he will tell the opposing batter what you're throwing.
Oh yeah, he did it twice in the whole movie. And Tim Robbins was like, "How do you know I was gonna throw that?" And he just straight up tells him, "Oh, I told him because he wouldn't listen to me."
Hit the damn bull, gets a free steak dinner.
Yep. Yeah, so the one thing I will say this, like, I do really like Kevin Costner in this movie, because he's the type that knows that like this kid doesn't know what he's doing yet, and he picks at him to where the kid is like, okay, you know what, all right, you showed me, like now let me learn from you. And he did such a good job that Tim Robbins ended up in the major leagues in the end.
Yeah, that scene where they're in the bar together is definitely a very powerful scene, because he says at one point, you have the talent, I have the brains, your arm is worth $1 million, but that's more than all my limbs put together. That's a very powerful statement right there, because I feel like a lot of people can relate to that. When you look at talented people, especially when they waste talent, it stands out, and it hurts a little bit more if you like never quite fulfilled your dreams or just fell short of expectations. So
yeah, exactly.
He wants to see the best for this kid. He wants to make sure that he can make it to the pros, and not just make it like he did for like 23 days, but actually stick around a little bit, actually be able to fulfill his potential. Another good statement he had in that scene there is the difference between being a 300 hitter and a 250 hitter is essentially 25 base hits. The luck of the game, a lot of factors play into whether or not you make it to the pros that aren't necessarily your ability, but just pure luck sometimes.
Exactly.
What are some of your favorite scenes from the movie?
I thought it was hilarious when the girl that likes to sleep with all the baseball players, when she's trying to get at the religious guy, and instead of like him sleeping with her, he asks her, "Oh, well, do you believe in the Church of God?" And then right after that, they get married, and the whole baseball team is like, "What?" Like, they get married super quick. I thought that was hilarious.
I think that leads into my favorite scene, the meeting on the mound. Just in general, that whole game where they actually lose their winning streak is one of the better ones. So the meeting on the mound, they're talking about ridiculous stuff, what to get them for their wedding. Jose has a curse on his glove. Crash's dad is filming him, and he's worried that he can't breathe through his eyes properly. Have you ever tried to breathe through your eyelids, Cristian?
No.
Can you say that's a skill you can adopt?
No.
So that's a great scene. And then obviously that leads into just a minute later when Crash gets ejected. Uses some language that I can't quite use on our channel, but
yeah.
But it's a great scene, because if you're a baseball fan, something about whenever a player gets an umpire's face, or that back and forth of the umpire and a player, there's some magic in that. People love to watch it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. it definitely riles up the crowd when you see a player and an umpire get into it. Even players against players. Like you see it all the time in major league games. Another scene that I like is when Susan Sarandon's trying to seduce Nuke into taking off her straps. And like she shows him how to do it. And he's still messing it up. And she's just like, oh my God, like hurry up.
I mean, it's an older woman who knows what she wanted.
Yeah.
I think we've all been there, unfortunately, though, ourselves.
Yeah.
But all right, I think that pretty much does it for me on this movie. Do you want me to introduce our new rating system, or?
Yeah, I like it.
Okay, so every good movie review series needs a good star rating, something to evaluate how good a movie really is. So we went ahead and we figured, okay, we're a sports channel. We're starting off with baseball. Let's go ahead and base our star ratings off of that. A traditional 5-star movie to us, obviously, home run, hit it out of the park. That's a long ball. That's a dinger. 5-star movies, home run. 4-star. Warning track power, meaning like it's a great movie. It's a good movie, but just falls a little bit short. Hits the track, double in the gap. You know, you've seen it. Warning track power, not quite there, but good movie nonetheless. 3-star, bloop base hit. Sometimes all you need is bloop and a blast, but in this particular series, a bloop base hit means, all right, not too bad. 2-star, foul ball down the line. A little indifferent about the movie, 2-star kind of rating roughly. And then 1-star, swing and a miss. If you're at the swing and the miss, then obviously you're at the very bottom end of our scale and probably a forgettable movie, but we'll still review you nonetheless. So with that said, Cristian, your first time watching this movie, go ahead and start us off with your rating.
I will rate it as a 4-star, warning track power.
That's about where I have it too. This is one of my dad's favorite movies, and he's going to hate that I have to say it, but I'm going to put it as warning track power as well. Hits it to the track, just falls a little bit short. I do like a lot of the scenes from this movie. I do like a lot of the characters from this movie. Definitely very memorable. But if I was to rate it within my top 5 sports movies of all time, top 10 sports movies of all time, just not quite there for me.
Yeah, it's not quite there for me either. I feel like some scenes were wasted a little too much on like Susan Sarandon. Like I kind of wanted to see more baseball, more legendary hits, more winning games. I don't know. I just feel like they just breezed through it too fast.
I feel like that's probably where it kind of separates from a movie we'll be talking about, Major League, whereas Major League is more focused on the team as a whole and how they perform. You're only really focused on a couple key players with Bull Durham and their stories. And it makes sense from the standpoint of minor league baseball overall in the grand scheme of things, where the team's finish is kind of not really a huge priority as opposed to a pro roster. So overall, yep, 4 stars, warning track power, Bull Durham. That's it for me.
That's it for me too.
All right. Well, closing statement from me. Hit the showers, meat.
All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed our review of Bull Durham. Thank you for listening and have a good day.
What do you believe in then?
Well, I believe in the soul. The cock, the pussy, the small of a woman's back, the hanging curveball, high fiber, good scotch, that the novels of Susan Sontag are self-indulgent, overrated crap. I believe Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone. I believe there ought to be a constitutional amendment outlawing AstroTurf and the designated hitter. I believe in the sweet spot, softcore pornography, opening your presents Christmas morning rather than Christmas Eve, and I believe in long, slow, deep, soft, wet kisses that last 3 days. Good night.